Day service, Universalist Fellowship of Laguna Beach. We're happy to have you here in the fellowship business building, or perhaps at home via Zoom. All of us are happy to see you. Just like Judy Collins saying, there's nobody that compares to you. I'm Noreen Kukkonen, and I'm pleased to serve as your worship associate. Our fellowship is honored with the Zoom presence of Reverend Stefanie Etzbach-Dale this morning to inspire us on our spiritual journey. Her service is entitled The In-Between Days. We are a fellowship of grateful helping hands. We join forces so that we can worship together on Sunday mornings. The beautiful music our director, Carole, provides greatly enhances this spiritual space. The technical services so wonderfully performed cheerfully by Pam Flodman and Don West Jr. with assistance from Dara Skarecki and Paul Bogdan at times make our hybrid services possible. Our friends who prepare this building for worship, Candy Strock and Paul Bogdan, create a comfortable and inviting space that we all respect and take care of. Thank you also to Rachel, Kendra, and Cindy, who do so much to keep our ship afloat. To these members of our fellowship, as well as those who are unnamed, please know that we appreciate you. The UU Fellowship of Laguna Beach is a welcoming community open to all who believe in our principles, our mission, and our vision. If you're on a journey to grow as a spiritual and moral being, we welcome you. We share important values and offer support as we all strive to lead meaningful and purposeful lives. The 7 principles that we aspire to in the Unitarian Universalist faith can be found in the UUFLB website. If these are also your values, we welcome you heartily. There's a place with us here. My bedside table holds this book. Has anybody here read it? It's a oh my goodness. 2 people, Dara and Pam. It's a bestseller right now. And it's a very interesting and creative book, I think. It made me think about lots of things and lots of potential. In this novel, a young woman finds herself leading a monotonous, ordinary life, and she feels unaccomplished and unwanted. One night, she decides to commit suicide, end it all. But the story doesn't end there. The heroine gets a chance to experience various ways her life could have unfolded had she made slightly different choices. She finds out that no new life she tries is perfect. And this makes her think about what is really important. In the novel, the heroine gets another chance to do it right. It's fiction after all. Fortunately for us all, we don't have to end it in order to engage in introspection of the kind that goes on in this novel. We have the time that remains for us on Earth to reflect on where we have been and how we got there, as well as look to the future and imagine its possibilities. Today, Reverend Stefanie Etzbach-Dale will help us to this end with her exploration of the traditional Jewish practice of self-study that is done between Passover and the holiday of Shavuot. Her teaching aligns with our UU principle that affirms our belief in the dignity and worth of every person. We're all worthy as human beings. The inspiration that comes from honest introspection can bring us even closer to being right with ourselves and to the ever-changing world that we inhabit. Our chalice is the only symbol of the faith that we support and believe in, our Unitarian faith. If you have a chalice at home, a candle, please light yours now as Dara lights our chalice. Thank you, Dara. The words I chose for the chalice lighting are from the Reverend Summer al-Bayati. Excuse me, it's probably el-Bayati. She's a Muslim UU minister of Iraqi descent and is a member of UUA's congregational life staff. In betwixt and in between, we move in the liminal spaces that show shades of what can become, what can be. We light this chalice as a symbol of courage to move into that time of this and that, and not this and not that, with patience and faith and love and hope that this time will pass, like the sun that moves in between rising and setting, reminding us that beauty resounds in betwixt and in between. Now, please join me in our unison affirmation. If you're at home, please unmute yourself so we can say these words we firmly believe in together. So it should be on our screen. Let's read. May we be reminded
here
of our
highest
highest
aspirations
and
and
inspired
inspired to bring our gifts
love
of love and service
to the altar of
all humanity.
May
May
we
we know
know
once again that we are not isolated beings, but connected in mystery and miracle to the universe, to this community, and to each other.
Thank you. Reverend Stefanie.
To become more fully present to this shared time and space, I invite you to join me now in taking a moment to breathe, just breathe, counting 3 relaxed breaths in and out. And another in and out. And a third in and out. May these words by Khalil Gibran further serve to draw attention to the wondrous experience of time shared. He wrote, "An astronomer said, 'Master, what of time?' And he answered, 'You would measure time, the measureless and the immeasurable. You would adjust your conduct and even direct the course of your spirit according to hours and seasons. Of time, you would make a stream upon whose bank you would sit and watch its flowing. Yet the timeless in you is aware of life's timelessness and knows that yesterday is but tomorrow's memory and tomorrow is today's dream. And that which sings and contemplates in you is still dwelling within the bounds of that first moment which scattered the stars into space.' Welcome, and thank you for being here today."
Our opening song is from the play Fiddler on the Roof. It's a beautiful song. Carole will play.
Good morning, everyone. We are going to sing together Sunrise Sunset. Beautiful song. Is this the little girl I carried Is this the little boy at play? I don't remember growing older. When did they? When did she get to be a beauty? When did he grow to be so tall? Wasn't it yesterday when they were small? Okay, everyone can sing this. Sunrise, sunset. Sunrise, sunset, sunrise. Swiftly, swiftly flow the days. Seedlings turn overnight to sunflowers, blossoming even as we gaze. Sunrise, sunset, 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 sunrise, sunset. Swiftly fly the years, one season following another, laden with happiness and tears. What words of wisdom can I give them? How can I help to ease their way? Now they must learn from one another, day by day. They look so natural together, just like two newlyweds should be. Is there a canopy in store for me? Sunrise, sunset. Sunrise, sunset, sunrise, sunset. Swiftly fly the years, one season following another, laden with happiness and tears.
Our joys, sorrows, and milestones. It's one way to keep the ritual and practice of holding one another in community and understanding what each of our lives is about. The recording of the service is stopped during this period so we can speak our hearts. If you are at home, you are able, please contribute to the basket that Candy is circulating. If you're at home, the information to donate online is on your screen. And it's also in the email that you received that announced our service this morning. Thank you. Please join
Hi, you want to come up and see Gammy?
for
You
these
want to come up?
we offer, and that will help so many others.
From you I receive, to you I give, together we share, and from this we live. From you I receive, to you I give, together we share, and from this we live.
Reverend Stefanie.
For our time of meditation, I invite you to receive these words, allowing them in the silence and the music that follows to move within you. The counting. The counting started March 15th, days as viscous as years. Captivity is like that. We counted cases. We counted deaths. We counted toilet paper rolls, and we counted on one another to stay compliant, to stay apart, to stay resilient and alive. Liberation came quickly for the Hebrew slaves in Egypt way back when. Not so for us. Liberation rises and falls in stages like an errant with
20 years of service to congregations in the Pacific Midwestern region. Now affiliated with the UU Church of Palo Alto, she works as a spiritual director focusing on, quote, building spiritual courage, resilience, and joy, unquote, through private spiritual direction sessions, group retreats, and workshops, public speaking, and art. Reverend Stefanie's website, tendingspirit.com, gives further information, but also her image today is against the backdrop that she painted with the creativity that she has in abundance. Please welcome Reverend Stefanie Etzbach-Dale.
Thank you. It is so good to be with you again. What a year, huh? What a bunch of years. The pandemic and all the societal discord around responses to it, the supply chain issues, the ongoing racial injustices, exacerbated by economic iniquities and environmental horrors and wars, both far away and, given the news leaked this week and even this morning, here within our own nation. The battlefield being that of women's bodies and supermarkets. Each of these have caused and are causing untold suffering. And that doesn't even address our more personal struggles, the changes affecting religious identity, our ability to connect with hope and agency. There's been a lot going on. If we're still here, we have clearly adjusted, we've shifted focus, because at best, that is what humans do. At best, we adjust, we roll with the punches. What was unthinkable becomes the new normal relatively quickly. But as much as that tendency to adjust has served an evolutionary advantage, it also means that we are quick to minimize, to overlook the presence and ongoing effects of chronic grief, of chronic trauma and fear, the presence and effects of divisive injustices, imbalances, hindrances. Many of us are trying really hard to tune those out because so much is still being thrown at us every day. Because every day our attention is caught up in something else, something more immediate, more crucial, and or because we're just exhausted. Many of us are tuned out because the self-soothing or coping mechanisms we're drawn to numb us to the fuller picture of reality more than they empower us to engage with it. Meanwhile, time goes on all too swiftly. Last month, my beloved and I traveled to Germany to visit our daughter who lives there. It was our first plane travel since January 2020, and I was so excited, but I was also really terrified in a way that prompted shock because I used to love to travel. This time around, I worried and obsessed about every little detail for weeks. Instead of feeling free and energized by the possibilities, I was constricted by anxiety. Even while I was there, it took several days to relax into the long-awaited miracle of being together again. As it turns out, that inability to be present, even to the good things, is a common classic trauma response. Now, this trip coincided with the Jewish celebration of Passover, the story of having long ago been in bondage, having endured all sorts of constricting, traumatic conditions, including a plague. In a nutshell, Passover is a story of bondage, of waiting for liberation, and after its arrival, the long journey toward freedom. It's a holiday prompting reflection on the ways in which we ourselves, here and now, today, may be constricted, in bondage, living lives that are small and fearful and unrecognizable, and the ways in which we might consciously or inadvertently be causing others to live that way. Each year, Passover prompts reflection on corrupt systems of power, on how long it may take for sufferings to be eased and how quickly change can happen when it does. So quickly that there may not be enough time to think through what to leave behind, what to take, certainly not enough time to allow bread to rise. Ultimately, it's about how to keep moving towards freedom. Liberation can be attributed to a particular event or day. Freedom is an ongoing story. So this brings me to what I wanted to share with you today, namely a spiritual practice that involves counting the days between the story of Passover, the story of liberation, and the story of Moses bringing the commandments down from the mountaintop 49 days later, the standards by which the newly liberated people would be able over time to transform themselves into a free people. So some of you may wonder at the relevance of this ancient story, and I ask you to please bear with me. Originally, the counting of those 49 days was practical because that was the amount of time between the harvests of barley and wheat. But at some point, another connection was made, linking that agricultural framework to those two religious stories. Doing so each year invited deep reflection on the day-to-day process of overcoming trauma, of creating safety and coherence in uncertain circumstances. Sound familiar? It invited reflection on how and why to let go of old and outdated habits and ways of being, how to be a leader, and how to support leaders, how to live together and move forward together as a community. It became a time to revisit the need for and impact of both compassion for one another and the necessity of boundaries. It became a time to consider who and what we can count on, what is asked of us, what common values we agree to abide by for everyone's sake. Ultimately, those 49 days became a time to think about the vision and faith and commitment that human beings are called to bring to the evolving human journey. That process, that spiritual practice, is called counting the Omer. And it spoke to me this year in a way that I find surprisingly relevant, given the times in which we live. So there are lots of reasons and ways to do it. It can be as simple as marking the day, saying today is week 5 and day 29, and maybe reciting a particular prayer or blessing. Or it can be as disciplined as setting aside time each day to reflect deeply on the quality or attribute or action associated with that particular week and that particular day, and with the energies generated through their relationship with each other. Maybe even giving creative expression to all of that through journaling and through art. As a visual learner and thinker, I was drawn to the creative invitation and to a particular framework. And I'm wondering if Don can show us the first slide. There it is. In the Jewish mystical tradition, this diagram is called the tree of life. Imagine the roots at the bottom and the leaves and the fruit up top. It's a little bit like the ancient Hindu system that recognizes the presence of particular qualities or energy points on the human body, the sacrum at the bottom, the crown of the head up top. Except this system includes more qualities, more energies and actions represented by those little circles. And instead of having them all placed on a central pillar, it places them on 3 pillars, reinforcing the fact that life really is a balancing act between conflicting forces. We often find ourselves caught up in either being too harsh or too lax, too right brain or too left brain. At the most basic level, we may remember to breathe in fully, but we often neglect to just let it all out. It's so easy to get stuck in extremes, to become polarized as individuals and as communities. This system encourages paying attention to what may be out of whack within and among us in our communities and institutions, so that we can try to do something about it. So let's take a quick look at the second slide, indicating the qualities and actions associated with those points. There it is. I don't know if you can see that real well, but we're going to start with the right side, compassion and loving kindness. And then to the left of that is discipline and boundaries. And in the center pillar is truth and beauty. And then back down on the right is instinct, habit, and passions. And on the left, meaning making and communication. And then in the central pillar, we have the foundation of the self, the ego. And at the very bottom, physical presence or reality. That's often called the kingdom. Now, there's not going to be a test on this, so please don't worry. If you're wondering why I started with compassion on the upper right, but not at the very top, it's because the lower qualities, especially the lower 4, are the ones that we mortals are most familiar with. Those 4 keep us pretty busy. They've given shape to multi-million-dollar health, beauty, and psychiatric industries. It is rare indeed for human beings to achieve true understanding and wisdom, to say nothing of unitive consciousness, which is at the very top of this diagram. For most of us, it's hard enough to face that particular truth or realization, to try to liberate ourselves from both the more basic human needs or inclinations and the traumas that keep us rooted in the past, that keep us from feeling empowered in the present. We have to face that personal truth this system implies before we can navigate effectively what it's going to take to live in harmony and balance with one another, to find freedom together as a community. So today is the 5th week and the 29th day of counting those 49 days. And this week's focus is on passions and instincts and habits. That's the 3rd down on the left column. So I'm thinking a lot about those that spark joy, that help me engage with life's challenges in meaningful ways, as well as those that keep me trapped in cycles of pain and apathy and self-doubt and lethargy. So far, the practice of counting these days, of reflecting on this diagram, seems to be balancing out the latter and creating more of the former, creating more joy. Because through the reflections of these past weeks, I've been able to connect deeply and personally with several learnings that I want to share with you. Foremost, the recognition that compassion and discipline or boundaries are indeed essential in equal measure. They must balance each other out. Too much compassion for others, and we sell ourselves short. We risk being taken advantage of, left feeling misunderstood and disempowered and resentful. Too much focus on defining and defending our boundaries, not allowing others' experiences or feelings or insights to touch us, or maybe not honoring our own wounds or fears, and we bypass critical opportunities to learn, to liberate ourselves from the violence of ignorance and to undo injustices. In the process, by not paying attention to the dynamic between these two qualities, compassion and discipline, wherever they show up, we risk deepening the divisions within and among us, becoming further isolated and disempowered as individuals and fragmented as communities. Not good. These past weeks, I've been practicing balancing compassion on the one hand, discipline on the other in my own life, and have come to recognize that when I can manage it, whether or not I start consciously from the place of truth, I do indeed find my way to truth on the central pillar of this diagram, right where the heart would be. Even complicated situations begin to feel less complicated when centered in the heart. I'm finding there is clarity and sometimes even beauty and ease in truth, even when it's an undesirable truth, like how skewed our legal system is towards exerting strength and discipline against women, against trans and non-binary people, queer people, differently abled or economically disadvantaged people, people of color. Let's move this slide aside for the time being. Where is the beauty in those truths, you might ask? Well, if there is any, it is this. First, that when we face truth, we've got something real to work with. We're not wasting our time counting illusions and delusions. Second, we can feel free to sort through habits, the automatic beliefs and feelings and thoughts and actions, the passions and biases that otherwise dominate our personal and public lives, causing so much suffering. And third, by paying attention to the relationship between compassion and discipline within and among us, we're better able to make choices in alignment with what is most true about who we really are and have it within us to be, which I have to believe includes compassionate towards those who are marginalized, who are endangered. When we face truth, better yet, when we are centered in truth, we can begin the process of liberating our little corner of the world from the tyranny of the past, allowing us to be more present to the ever unfolding journey toward freedom, which cannot be, as many other systems for spiritual advancement proclaim, it cannot be a solely personal journey focused only on our own comfort or safety or salvation. I'll share with you a personal example. Last week's practice included focus on the dynamic between those two on the lower end of the tree. Netzach and Hod are the names. These are the qualities lower down on the tree. They represent patterns of behavior we might normally take for granted, as well as the drive that we have to make sense of things. While contemplating that and how it relates to the sphere directly above that, the sphere of truth, and the sphere directly below that, the sphere of ego foundation, I got into a painful conversation with a family member about something else entirely. What made it painful to me was that she shut down and refused to talk things through. And that always makes me push even more to find out why, what's going on, what do I not know about what's happening here? How can I fix it if I don't know what's wrong? My pattern is to get really stressed out when confronted with others, to me, inexplicable behavior, inexplicable reactions, especially when those reactions shut me out. That pattern of pushing and getting stressed out is clearly connected to my desire to make sense of things, to make meaning, to try to do the right thing. And those inclinations are not bad. But when those patterns get out of whack, when they're not consciously tethered to truth, for example, the truth that she has a right to process things in her own way, the truth that it may not even be about me, the truth that my pushing for resolution was causing her pain, was causing her to shut down even more, creating even more momentum for my panic. When those two qualities get out of whack, when they're not consciously tethered to truth or to the role that ego plays in the complexities of our relationships, or linked to the discipline to honor and wait out another's processing, or to compassion for how hard communication can be, well, that's when all bets are off and suffering escalates, and safety and trust in our relationships wither. Why am I sharing this? Because we've all been through some pretty traumatic things these past couple of years, and we're not done with all of that yet. And because our principles call us to be present to all of it, as much as possible, to be attentive to who we are and where we are and how we got there, and who's not there and why they're not there, and what it's going to take to liberate ourselves, to liberate all of us from whatever might be keeping us from experiencing ourselves and one another as embedded in incredibly complex systems within which we have agency, moment to moment. Yes, we still have agency. We have the ability to check in with ourselves and with each other, our relationships, our communities, our institutions, in order to see what has gotten out of whack and how we can lift ourselves, all of us, closer to the crown of the tree, from which vantage point it becomes clear that we are far more precious, far more alike than we are different. And that the journey from liberation to freedom, however long it may take, is a worthwhile one. Whether or not this particular system of counting the days between Passover and Shavuot, this way of framing experience, intrigues or inspires you, please know that I count you among those with whom I am most grateful to travel onward. May our traveling truly be towards freedom. So may it be.
Dara will extinguish our chalice. Thank you, Reverend Stefanie. Extinguishing this flame, which has burned bright in our midst, we revere what has been kindled within each of us: warmth in community and being together, the light of truth, and a perpetual spark of hope. Our closing song is number 1008.
Please join me in singing When Our Heart is in a Holy Place. When our heart is in a holy place, when our heart is in a holy place, We are blessed with love and amazing grace when our heart is in a holy place. When we trust the wisdom in each of us, every color, every creed and kind, and we see our faces in each other's eyes, then our heart is in a holy place. When our heart is in a holy place, when our heart is in a holy place, we are blessed with love and amazing grace. When our heart is in a holy place, when we tell our story from deep inside, and we listen with a loving mind, and we hear our voices in each other's words, then our heart is in a holy place. When our heart is in a holy place, when our heart is in a holy place, we are blessed with love and amazing grace. When our heart is in a holy place, when we share the silence of sacred space, and the God of our heart stirs within, and we feel the power of each other's faith, then our heart is in a holy place. When our heart is in a holy place, when our heart is in a holy place, we are blessed with love and amazing grace. When our heart is in a holy place, when our heart is in a holy place.
Our benediction by Reverend Stefanie today.
May you find your way this day and every day. Indeed, all your days from sunrise to sunset and sunrise again. May you find your way, liberated of trauma, of fear, anxiety, the inability to be fully present. Together, may you continue to create safety and coherence in uncertain circumstances. May you inspire and enliven and empower one another, growing in your ability to face truth, to balance compassion and discipline, to be leaders and to support leaders. May your roots run deep, your trunk be solid, and the fruit of your branches nourish those seen and unseen, known and unknown, who travel beside you toward freedom. Remember this: who you are and where you are, where you've been and what you do counts. All of it counts. Blessed be. Amen.
There be peace on earth. Please stand.
Let there be peace on earth, and let it begin with me. Let there be peace on earth, the peace that was meant to be. With earth as our mother, we are family. Let us walk with each other in perfect harmony. Let peace begin with me. Let this be the moment now. With every step I take, let this be my solemn vow, to take each moment and live each moment in peace, great day, everybody.